Okay, the step-by-step instructions for preparing an income statement are on page 183. Every number is going to have a label. Don't just leave a number hanging out there without having something that identifies what it is, okay? And so we've already talked about how the first column is to add numbers in a section. These are all expenses, so we're going to add them, and then we're going to use the second column, Dan, please, to record their total. Okay? And then the net income here, the percent of sales column goes over there. On page 184 shows the completed income statement for Techno Consulting. So you can see the use of the columns. Column 1 to add all numbers in a section. Column 2, if there's only one revenue account, that is the total, and it goes on the right-hand side. So total revenue, total expenses, and then we have our net income. Percent of sales items are listed over here. Page 185 shows you, well, what do we do if we have 2 revenue accounts? If there's more than one revenue account, we're going to list each one separately in column 1 and their total in column 2. And then we'll do the same thing. This one happens to have a net loss. So the differences when there's a net income and net loss is that the net loss is reported in parentheses because it's a negative number, and the component percentages, one of them is going to be a negative number. The component percentages always add up to 100. So here 123.7 plus a negative 23.7 equals 100. So when you have a net loss, you're going to have one of those in parentheses. Okay, so on page 186, we're going to do the income statement for Darlene's delivery service for the month of July. Calculate and record the component percentages for total expenses and net income. Round percentage calculations to the nearest 1/10 of 1%. So they're going to have one decimal place, each one of those. All right, here we go. All the information that we need is from the income statement section of the worksheet. Here's our revenue, here's our expenses. We'll even be able to cross-reference and check to make sure that our net income is the same as what we reported on the worksheet. That's a built-in way to check your math, you guys. So we're going to start with the same 3-line heading, who, what, and when. Who is the name of the company, and this is Darlene's delivery service. What is the name of the report? This is an income statement. And when is the date? Income is reported over a period of time. So this is for the month ended July 31st of the current year. Okay? We have just one revenue account for sales. So we'll have our section heading for revenue. And then we can indent a little bit to show that we have a sales account. And our sales account balance is $5,511. So we're going to put that right in the second column. And that's all we need for the revenue section because there's only one account. Okay. Now our expenses. On reports, if you want to leave a blank line in between that to really show your sections, you can do that. So we're going to have a section called expenses. And now we're just going to list all of our expense accounts. And we have 4 of them here. So write the complete account title. There's no need to abbreviate. You have lots of room. And then list the amount in the first column. All right. So I can't show you both, but you guys have it right up above there. Austin.
On the what's the income statement, right? Or no, the worksheet.
Yes.
Above. Why is there like a dark line below advertising expense?
That's just the working papers. Every 3 lines, it gives you a dark line so you can kind of see where you are. That's just how the
Okay.
paper was printed. It has no significance to this.
Okay.
Okay? That's okay. So we have advertising expense, insurance expense, miscellaneous expense, supplies expense, and then we're going to record the amounts in the first column. Advertising 21, insurance 300, miscellaneous 347, and supplies 713. Okay, now you're going to take your ruler and you're going to single underline this section here. And we're going to add our expenses. 821, 300, 347, and 713. Okay, and we get 2,181. So before you write that down, what you want to do is go back up to here and see, is that my total on the worksheet, right? A good way to check your work, because we all know this 300 could have been written down as 30 and you'd have a slight error and you'd be off. Or you could have written down 374 here instead of 347 and had a transposition error. So once you add this up, take the number, check it against the worksheet to make sure that you're good to go. Okay? So, and I'm going to put the total in the right-hand column, 2,181, and I need a label for that. Okay, so that is total expenses. So far, so good, you guys?
Yep.
Pretty simple, right? Okay, let's underline here because we're going to do math. These single underlines always tell us where is math occurring, and that's especially important on financial statements so the reader knows when some type of mathematical operation is being performed. So we're going to underline that. And now we can just do a visual. Revenue is greater than expenses, so we have a net income. I'm going to go ahead and put my label down because visually I can tell what I have. Now I'm going to subtract that. And I get $3,330. So again, go back up to your worksheet and check. Yes, that's what I have for my net income, $3,330. So we'll record that here. And double underline. Because that report is done. Well, that section is done. Okay, if you want to put some page guideline reminders for yourself, the heading is described on page 182. And the setup of the income statement, page 183, 184, 185. So we have, I'm going to put this on the side here, page 183 through 185. That tells us how to set that up because sometimes we have a net income, sometimes we have a net loss. And the last thing we have to do is this component percentage of sales, and that is on page 184 and 185. So if you want to go back and read that. Okay, so sales revenue is 100% of sales, 100.0. Remember, we're going to have one decimal place on each one of these. Now, how do we find out what percent of sale of revenue is our expenses?
Once you divide it.
We do divide it. So we're going to take, I'm trying to put this under here so you guys can see it. We're going to take $2,181, our total expenses, and we're going to divide that by our total revenue. Okay, 5511. And then I pressed equals, and then I'm going to times 100 to convert the decimal to a percent. So it's 39. Now here we want to round to the 1/10 of 1%. So what am I going to do there, you guys? 39 point what? 6. Good. 39.6 goes right here. Okay. So for every dollar of revenue that we have coming in, 39.6 cents gets paid out in expenses. And then we can compare that to a similar company. What if company XYZ down the road, hey, there's another delivery service in town. Are they spending 39 cents of every revenue dollar towards expenses? That's how you know how you're doing against another company. Okay, and then we'll do the same calculation for net income. So we're going to take 3,330 divided by our revenue, 5,511, and then times 100, and we have 60.4. And then you can check that in the end because these two need to add up to 100 because they're both percents of this. And there's our completed income statement.